everybody. It's been a while since we've all been together. I'm excited to have this chance today to chat with you about MIPS 2019. So as usual, we have a lot to cover, so I'll be going relatively quickly, and the hope being that the slides are a great reference for you after the fact. So I will do my best to really drill in on the points that are super important, yet you have this as a reference afterwards. So this is the slide you're all familiar with. We have been, this is the slide we have used from scratch one to help folks understand what MIPS is all about, right? MIPS is part of QPP, which is part of MACRA, right? This was the bipartisan act that was, placed into law in 2015, and we have been dealing with this since. So the quality payment program is part of MACRA. There are two ways to be successful in the quality payment program: through the advanced alternative payment model, which some of you are in. And if you are, you need to know the ins and outs of that. Generally, you don't have to participate in MIPS if you're in an advanced APM, but there are some subtleties. So be sure you know the details of your particular advanced APM. Most of us are in the merit-based incentive payment system, which is MIPS. MIPS is broken down into the 4 performance categories: quality, promoting interoperability, which was formerly ACI, which was formerly meaningful use, improvement activities, used to be called clinical practice improvement activities, and then cost. If you are, there are some of you who fall into the category of what we call a MIPS APM. The Track 1 MSSP ACOs are an example of that. So you kind of live in two worlds. You have to still do the promoting interoperability category, but your ACO is handling quality and improvement activities, and you don't have to report costs. So important to know where you live in this world of the quality payment program. So as always, there are new rules for us to be aware of every year. The 2019 rule was finalized in November of 2018. These are some of the changes, and I'm going to go into these in a deeper way, but I just want to make sure everybody hears at the outset, the reporting period for each of the performance categories remains unchanged from year 2. So that's good news, right? Cost and quality are still the full year, but improvement activities and promoting interoperability are just 90 days. So we all have time for those two performance categories. There are additional clinician types required to report this year: the physical therapist, occupational therapist, speech path audiology, clinical psychiatry, and dietitians, all required to report MIPS this year. Important to know what your requirements are, right? And the way I like to help folks think about this is, if you as a physical therapist traditionally participated in PQRS, right? That was something you did way back in the day, but you never had to report meaningful use. That hasn't changed, right? The intention is really still the same. So if you're a physical therapist now participating in MIPS, you will report quality measures, but you are not required to report the promoting interoperability category. So those PI points are reweighted into the quality category. And if you're part of a larger practice, say you're a physical therapist that's part of an ortho practice, if the practice does group reporting, you're covered under that giant, more broad umbrella. So, and if you have any questions, be sure to check the QPP lookup tool, and I'll talk about that in a minute. The weight of each category, so how much does each one cost, modified slightly. This is the trend they told us we would see. So quality has gone down by 5% from 50 to 45, but cost has gone up by that 5% from 10 to 15. They're warning us, cost is going to continue becoming a bigger deal. Improvement activities remains 15 and PI remains at 25. And that is if you are not a MIPS APM, so if you're not in an ACO. If you're in an ACO, it's slightly different, and I'll cover that in the performance category specific slides. The quality performance category, this is a cool change this year. There's multiple data submissions that are optional. So right back in the day, we were like, oh, you either have to report all 6 quality performance measures via claims or through the EHR Direct, which is using our dashboard. And that was challenging for folks who are specialists, right? They look at our dashboard and say, wow, that's really primary care focused. I'm struggling to find 6 measures that are good for me, but I really like to be able to use this dashboard because it's capturing my clicks and I don't have to report the QDC on my claims. Guess what? Now you have options. You can pick and choose. If you like 3 measures from our dashboard, you can report those 3. And if you like 3 others from claims, you can report those. Okay, the cost performance category. Big changes here. They've added 8 new episode-based measures. And they've decided, we're not going to give you a bonus for improving here anymore until 2024. They kind of took that away. We'll dive into that in greater detail in a minute. The improvement activities performance category, they removed our PI bonus opportunity. That is such a bummer. We loved it when so there was a group of improvement activities that if they used your certified EHR technology, you reported that improvement activity, you got like 10 bonus points in the PI category. We really like that. Yeah, that's gone. So that's a bummer. So promoting interoperability, right? This is really the big category folks read about. It's the one that's based on what used to be meaningful use. This year, there is no longer the option of using 2014 edition cert versus 2015 edition cert. You've got to use the 2015 edition certified EHR technology, which we are. Manistee is 2015 edition cert. They eliminated the base score concept. So that was kind of a surprise, right? It was like that big challenge. None of your points would count in the performance category if you didn't get the base score. So that's been eliminated. They have reduced down to 4 objectives. So I'm going to pause for everyone to cheer. Yahoo! It is less work. And there's some new measures that are giving us an opportunity for some bonus. So in the e-prescribing measure, PDMP and the opioid treatment agreement plan. We will dive into those in great detail. Health information exchange, provider to patient exchange, and public health and clinical data exchange. Those are the 4 objectives, measures that roll up under each of those objectives, and we'll review those in a minute. The performance threshold payment adjustment. Okay, so you have to achieve a MIPS composite score of 30 to avoid the negative adjustment. Last year, it was 15, and that should say up from 15 in the 2018 reporting year. So the exceptional performer bonus, right? Remember that if you got over 70, it puts you into a new category of folks, and you were, there was a separate pile of money, and they were going to divide that all up between just those exceptional performers. So that threshold is 75. It used to be 70. The maximum negative payment adjustment is 7%, right? So it is, you will see that in 2021 from your 2019 performance year, right? It's always 2 years later. Makes it really hard for us to right the ship when we don't know about the bad until 2 years later. So the negative payment adjustment is increasing to 7%, the maximum negative payment adjustment. Okay, so here is where we're going to dive a little deeper into each of those topics that we just reviewed. So we all want to know what the exemptions are, right? What's my get out of jail card look like here? They have added a criterion of the low volume threshold providing less than 200 services. So I'm looking at, so I should start from the beginning. So in the orange box, if you're newly enrolled in Medicare, this is your first year in Medicare, you get a free pass. You don't have to participate. The second box is talking about the low volume threshold. So the 2 metrics that remain unchanged here are the Medicare Part B payments less or equal to $90,000 a year, or you see 200 or fewer Medicare Part B patients, or you provide less than 200 covered professional services. I think that's kind of splitting hairs, but long story short, it's a third way to opt out via the low volume threshold. If you are significantly participating in your advanced APM, so this is for the folks who are in like BPCI plus, BPCI advanced. If you are in the Track 1 plus MSSP, if you're in the Next Gen ACO, there's a laundry list of advanced APMs that, that opt you out if you are significantly participating. This is that achieving QP status. And the benchmark for that this year is that you receive 50% of your payments through the advanced APM or see 35% of your patients through the advanced APM. These are thresholds that rise every year. They make it harder and harder for you to achieve QP status. So the big bummer is, well, what happens if I don't? Well, then guess what? You're considered a MIPS APM, and you do have to submit some data. So it's kind of a scary proposition. So be aware of your status. And to that point, I'm going to talk about program eligibility in terms of the clinician types, and we're going to talk about the QPP lookup tool. So across the top, we see all the folks who have been, required to report and participate for the first several years. And then the second row that I've kind of there's glowing in red, PTs and OTs, speech path, audiology, clinical psychiatrists, dietitians. Those are new this year. Those clinician types are new this year. Don't guess. Use this QPP participation status. Type your NPI in here. It will tell you if you are required to report or not required to report. So my good friend in Connecticut, Dr. Mara, he is not required to report because he participates in an advanced APM. So yay, that's a great thing for him. What you need to understand, there's some drill downs here. So even though you didn't have to participate, guess what? They still had to submit their PI dashboard. That blew all of our minds last year. We're like, whoa, hang on. One of the lures to participating in an advanced APM is I get out of MIPS, which means no PI dashboard. Sayonara, meaningful use. And then, oh, just kidding. What you need to know is each advanced APM has different requirements, and what we find they're commonly doing is they are using that MIPS PI data submission to validate the claim that greater than 50% of their providers use certified EHR technology, and that number goes up to 75, I think, this year for advanced APMs. Long story short, your score doesn't count, but they want to see the dashboard. It's a way of proving that you're someone who uses certified EHR technology. So the possibility remains you will be required to submit that PI dashboard, even if you're in an advanced APM. Okay, that's a lot of stuff to absorb. Okay, so performance category impact, right? We want to know, so when I say performance category, that's what they call PI quality, improvement activities, and costs. Those are the 4 performance categories of MIPS. So starting with, and I tried, guys, these slides are busy, and I apologize, and I know there's a lot to look at here, so I try to call out in red what's new for this year. So in the quality performance category, right, this is the one that replaces PQRS. This is where you report up to 6 quality measures. You have to include an outcome measure. The reporting period is 365 days. The bonus points are for additional high priority measures and for end-to-end electronic reporting, right? That's one of the attractions for using our dashboard and submitting that CAT3 file at the end of the year. You get to count end-to-end electronic reporting, a bonus point for each measure. We like that. There is a small practice bonus that I'm going to guess most of the folks on the line qualify for because we're 15 or less providers. They are moving that bonus from the composite score to the quality category and increasing it to 6 points. Whatever. Okay. I have a little emoji later that's my really emoji. We'll show that. I should have put that one here. I don't know why they changed the scoring, but anyways, that's what they did with this one. They are going to allow small practices to continue submitting quality data via your Part B claims submission. I find this interesting. I think if you're a bigger practice, the claims-based reporting is not an option for you. They have to either do the EHR direct or use a registry. And then This last box that I have circled in red, right, we touched about this when we talked about the final rule for 2019, allowing multiple collection types, right? So I'm going to do 3 measures via claims and 3 via EHR direct. New deciles in 2019. Remember, the drama with quality is you're looking at your dashboard and you've got 95 out of 100. And you think, whoa, this is awesome. I have 95% for this measure, and that's going to get me a nice big fat score. But then you have to take that 95% and you have to plop it into the deciles and say, oh, well, gee whiz, that's really only plopping me into the 4th decile. I'm going to get 4 measly points for that. So the deciles have changed. I have a screenshot at the end that shows the way they've changed. I did a comparison of 17, 18, and 19. It's not orders of magnitude difference, but there is slight changes, and we'll talk about that. And then the total category weight reduced to 45, decreasing by 5% because we threw those over to cost. So that's kind of the big picture for quality. Promoting interoperability. Okay, so the whole thing is red. I had to just put a giant red box around the whole thing because everything changed about this practically. Right, this is where you have to use your 2015 edition certified technology. They have reduced down to 4 objectives. There are requirements for reporting unless you claim an exclusion. 2 brand new measures, query of the Prescription Drug Monitoring Program, also known as PDMP, and verified opioid treatment agreement. Those are optional for 2019. If you do 1 patient, folks, hear me say this, read my lips, 1 patient. It's going to be so easy to get those 5 bonus points for each measure. And I'm going to walk you through with screenshots of what the workflow looks like in the system. I'm happy with the way these 2 new measures have come to be in the system. So, and the scoring changes are also giant, right? They eliminated the base performance and bonus scores. They are finalizing a new scoring methodology. I am going to walk you through all the drama of these exclusions and the way it shifts points from one category to the other. I've got a couple examples to show you. It could be advantageous for some of us, so I don't want it to be a scary thing. The performance-based scoring is at the individual measure level, right? So you're gonna get your 95 out of 100. So we'll talk about that in the example. The security risk analysis, right? Remember, this has been part of MIPS, meaningful use from the very beginning, and then they inherited that into MIPS. They still require you to do it, but there's no points attached to it. So it's kind of an interesting way of handling it. I'm anticipating that when we log in to do our attestation, there will be a box that you check that says, I have an SRA on file for 2019. And then, anyway, you'll total up your points. That part is going to be the same, right? I'm going to, total up my points and then multiply by 25%, and that's going to be the contribution of this category towards my total MIPS composite score. And again, if you're a MIPS APM clinician, so maybe you're in an ACO and you don't have to do quality, or your ACO reports quality for you, you automatically count for IA by being in an APM, and you don't have to do cost. Your PI is worth 30%, and we have the same checkbox on the dashboard that does that calculation for you. Okay, so improvement activities. Some relatively big changes here as well. The points have remained. It's still 15% of your total score, unless you're a MIPS APM clinician, and it's 20%. If you participate in a PCMH, or comparable specialty practices, or an APM medical home, you automatically earn full credit. So big message there. There are currently 117 activities available in the inventory. They added 6 new ones, they modified 5, and they removed 1. Medium and high weights remain the same from years 1 and 2. No change in the number of activities that MIPS eligible clinicians must report to achieve a total of 40 points. They discontinued that, bonus points in the ACI/PI category, so that's my sad news. For group reporting and virtual group reporting, only 1 MIPS eligible clinician in the TIN must perform the IA for the TIN to receive credit. I like that little tidbit. It helps to remind folks that, you know, there are improvement activities. Whenever I chat with someone about the improvement activities, my line is usually, you're doing this already. You're gonna look through this list and you're gonna say, oh, I'm already doing that. Give yourself credit for the work you're already doing. So don't let this category scare you. Okay, cost. Well, big changes here, right? More and more and more weight being put into this bucket. The 8 new so we still have the traditional cost-based measures, the Medicare spending per beneficiary and the total per capita cost. Those were inherited from the old value-based payment modifier system, if y'all remember that way back in the day. If you were really on it, you logged in, you got your QR/UR report, and you understood how you compared to your colleagues in terms of your spending in those 2 measures. They have added 8 episode measures this year. I'm not going to go into this in tremendous detail. The big message here is you have no control over this. I shouldn't say it that way. There's nothing for you to report. This is all based on claims that are submitted. So there's less for you to, I guess, essentially, there's less for you to be able to control here. This is my little, it's happening, sweetheart. This just cracks me up from that commercial. That's how I feel about this. It keeps climbing, and cost is really counting. And if you remember in 2017, our first year of MIPS, this was 0, and it's all the way up to 15%, and it's going to keep on increasing, guys. So, it's happening, sweetheart. So here, I just told you there are 8 episode measures. These are those measures. So elective outpatient percutaneous coronary intervention, knee arthroplasty, revascularization of lower extremity, chronic critical limb ischemia, not lamb, routine cataract removal with intraocular lens implantation, screening, surveillance colonoscopy, and ST elevation myocardial infarction with PCI. So those are the episodes. Those are the procedural episodes. There's going to be a triggering CPT that's going to show up in a claim, and it's going to be, woohoo, this doctor did this procedure. We're going to look at how he compares cost-wise to other folks, and we'll decide what kind of points we're going to give him. There are 2 acute inpatient medical condition episodes, so the intracranial hemorrhage or cerebral infarction and simple pneumonia with hospitalization. Okay, so that's the story with the episode measures. And then here's the slide we always share regarding the 2 cost measures, what's the attribution method, right? How are we attributing for both cost and episode? And the main message here with episode is that word trigger. There's going to be a trigger inpatient hospitalization or a trigger CPT code in a procedure, and that's how they're going to know which patients to attribute to you. Okay, that was a lot about what are the changes in each of the 4 categories. And now we're going to talk about PI, right? This is really where we're focused, and we want to do now the deeper dive into what is new and different in 2019 for the promoting interoperability objectives and measures. So remember, this is the old meaningful use. So we've said it now probably 5 times, eliminating the base and performance and bonus scores, finalizing a new scoring methodology, and the performance-based scoring at the individual measure level. So each measure will be scored based on the MIPS eligible clinician's performance for that measure based on submission of a numerator or a denominator. I should say numerator and denominator, or a yes or no submission. Finalizing that the security risk analysis is required, but it's not going to be a measure where you check a box. And then the scores for each of the measures will be added together to calculate the score of up to 100 possible points. And then if exclusions are claimed, the points will be reallocated. This all comes from the Federal Register. This is the hyperlink, guys. If you ever want to read from the horse's mouth, I think it's 1,200 pages or something. And it's really, it's a hard read. I will tell you, it's really hard to find the pertinent information because there's so much discussion about, well, we proposed this, and then here's the comments we received, and you got to get to the point where they say, this is what we finalized, and they don't make it easy for you to find it. This, I like this little graph, which does come straight from Table 39 from the Final Register, and it talks to us about the points and what those measures are called. So I'm going to just spend a second here. So e-prescribe, so if we look at the objectives, right, it's got 4 objectives: e-prescribing, health information exchange, provider to patient exchange, and then public health and clinical data exchange. Okay, so within the e-prescribing, now I have 3 measures. E-prescribing, this is the same as it's always been, guys. Then there's the 2 new bonuses that you get, the 2 new bonus measures. We'll talk about those in depth. 5-point bonus, it's gonna be easy. The health information exchange, they have changed the name of these measures on us, I think, every year. I think this is their worst choice yet, but okay. Support electronic referral loops by sending health information. This is the old summary of care upon transitions of care. Then the next one is support electronic referral loops by receiving and incorporating health information. So this is where you're working your inbox, your direct message inbox, and you're taking that C-CDA and you're importing it, extracting, reconciling. We will talk about this as well. So it's not a new workflow, it's just a new name. Provide patients electronic access to their health info. That's the patient portal, right? You guys have been doing this for years. And then there are the 5 registries available in the public health and clinical data exchange. And most of you are claiming exclusions here. Maybe you do immunizations and then you're claiming an exclusion and you're getting your 10 points. But we'll talk about the scoring, some of the scoring nuances this year in just a second. I always like to talk about the exclusions because this seems to be a moving target as well. And I wanted to project out so you could see what's available in 2020 as well. So in 2019, e-prescribing, if you do less than 100, you can still exclude. And then the support electronic referral loops by receiving and incorporating. So that harder workflow, that's the one where I'm sitting in my inbox. I'm treating it like my incoming fax queue, and I'm pulling those documents out. And, you know, we all know the trouble we've had exchanging C-CDAs with different folks. So that is an available exclusion for this year, and I want to dive into that in a little greater depth. And then the public health and data exchange, those are also, there's exclusions available there, and we'll talk about what that looks like. I'm going to sneeze. Oh, maybe not. Okay. Okay, you guys. The new scoring methodology. Okay, I am so sorry. Sarah is like diving under the table going, oh my God, here we go again with one of Julie's like so busy slides. I just don't know how else to present this. I'm going to try and go slow, you guys. And then you can study this later. Okay, so there's 2 slides that look like this, and I'm going to walk you through what the exclusions are and what happens if you opt for the exclusion. Okay, so this, what you see at the top in italics is excerpted straight out of the final rule. To account for the possibility that not all of the measures under the public health and clinical data exchange objective may be applicable to all MIPS eligible clinicians, we propose to establish exclusions for these measures. If a MIPS EC claims 2 exclusions, the 10 points for this objective would be redistributed to the provide patients electronic access to their health information measure under the blah, 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 blah. Okay, so what does this all mean? Oh my goodness. So in 2019, I have an example here. I have the before and the after. So the first screenshot is saying, oh, I am reporting on my public health and clinical data exchange. I'm going to get that 10 points for that. And so my patient portal measure is still worth 40 points. So before I claim the exclusion, the public health measures are still counting for 10 points, and my provide electronic access is still counting for the maximum 40 points. Okay, if I check the little box, and I have to shout out to our development team, I challenged them. I said, okay, guys, I got a new challenge for you this year. I want smart scoring on this dashboard. I want us to help folks understand what their max points are worth if they claim the exclusion. If you check the box to claim the exclusion for immunization registries and syndromic surveillance, there's 0 max points there, so nothing counts. And those 10 points were thrown up into the 50, so the maximum for the portal became 50 from 40. Look what it did to my score too. That score was also increased. So my total PI category score went from 10.75 to 12.25 because that I have points in my numerator, and because that is worth more, those, I got more points in my numerator too. So that was super cool, guys. So this works. If you check the boxes to claim the exclusions, this is what the end result will be. Okay, so we have another one of those. Deep breath. So supporting electronic referral loops, right? There are two ways to exclude from the receiving and incorporating. Read this first one very carefully that I've highlighted in yellow. Any, that should say MIPS, IPS, I don't know, I must have deleted something. Any MIPS eligible clinician who is unable to implement the measure for a MIPS performance period in 2019 would be excluded from this measure. We work with consultants, guys, in the certification world, and this one was broken down for us and explained to us that the anticipation by the ONC and the certification bodies is that not every vendor was going to be ready with a good operational workflow for this measure, and that it was going to be hard to get a decent score. And I will tell you, we have had this in our product for probably 5 years. Our old product manager did a phenomenal job of forecasting and looking out into the future, and he knew this was something we would need to do, and he built it in our product many, many years ago. But no one's touched it since. And I'm here to tell you, I think it's clunky. We are pledging to you that we're going to work on it and make it a better, more operational workflow so that it's an easier thing for you to do on a daily basis. So I believe that the folks on this call, if you're struggling with that receiver incorporate workflow, you can check the box and throw those 20 points into the send electronic referral loops by sending health information. So instead of dividing the points 20/20 for the HIE objective, the one measure, the send health information measure, becomes worth 40 points. So that is this new scoring methodology that is available to us this year. Okay, so here's a screenshot of the MIPS dashboard for 2019. So you can see we've got just the 4 objectives and then their corresponding measures, and we've removed the base score from the performance score and the PI category score, right? So your little box is going to increment based on your numerators and denominators. And then the little MIPS APM checkbox is there for those of you who are going to get 30 points for this instead of 25 if you're in a MIPS APM, so that does the math for you. So you'll know what is your PI category score. And then keep in mind that you can there's multiple ways for you to generate a dashboard that is tracking the behavior at the group level, right? So use the provider dropdown. If you've linked the tax IDs, you can do it that way. But there's a way to get one singular dashboard that's reported for the entire practice. Okay, now we're going to dive into each of those measures that are on the PI dashboard this year. And again, apologies, very busy slide. Use this as a reference. I'm not going to spend a ton of time on each of one of the slides that look like this, but it's something for you to reference later. The big change, the big message here is this is still required, but it's not, you don't have points that you're reporting on your dashboard. I am not going to dive into this. This is really for reference, but how do you go about doing a security risk analysis, right? Here's a hyperlink to the SRA tool that's out on the healthit.gov website. I always love this top 10 myths of the security risk analysis, and my favorite one is, it's my EHR vendor's job. So sorry, would love to help, and we can help with pieces of it, but you really need to handle this at your facility. So these are some of the myths. Most of them are false. Make sure you do it every year. Okay, e-prescribing. The workflow is unchanged. There's nothing you guys need to stress about here. It's the same as it's always been. Here's a picture of our RxMed screen. How do I send an electronic prescription? EPCS is optional. If you want to include EPCS, you can. If you don't want to include EPCS, you don't have to. It's totally optional, and there's a setting in admin that lets you elect to do or not do. When we're troubleshooting, so why does somebody, oh my gosh, they're on the bad side, right? We talk about the good side and the bad side when you drill into the MIPS dashboard and you look at the details for that particular measure. You're like, what the heck? Why are they on the bad side? And it will tell you, was the formula queried? Was the eligibility done? Did you actually prescribe it or did you print it? You know, these are the reads. So it helps you identify any of the workflows that are, you know, failing, that are causing the patients to not count in your numerator. So this is meant to help you, you know, find that person who maybe just wasn't sure what the wrong workflow is. Okay, PDMP, the new measure. I'm going to slow down on this one because I want to make sure everybody understands this. So I'm going to read the measure description at the top. For at least one Schedule II opioid, here's the most important word, electronically prescribed. You have to use EPCS. This does not count if you are not using EPCS. If you want to take advantage of these 95 bonus points, they require, the denominator is, you know, the opioid was electronically prescribed. So for at least one Schedule II opioid electronically prescribed using CEHRT, that's us, so using a certified technology during the performance period, the MIPS eligible clinician uses data from CERT, so we have an integration to conduct a query of a prescription drug monitoring program for prescription drug history, except where prohibited and in accordance with applicable law. Okay, blah, blah, blah. So this is, you have to do this for one patient to get the bonus point. They are proposing that this will be not a bonus point in 2020. It will be required, but they're going to allow you to have an exclusion. So they're making it easy to be successful here. So what does this look like in our product? We actually have two ways of doing this. You can do this through Dr. First, who are our EPCS vendor, and that may be an avenue some of you are forced to take. Like, for example, the state of Illinois does not participate with our other vendor, but they do participate through Dr. First. So this is a very, very, very state-specific program. But what does it look like in the product? So this is available to prescribers only, not my rule. So your supporting staff cannot do this. It has to be done by a provider. Most of you have seen what these PDMP, NARC scores, and reports look like coming back to into you, because you're querying this data offline. So right here in Michigan, you're logging into MAPS to find out what's the NARC score, what's the patient's history of filling an opioid. So the integration within our system is, you are seeing it right here on this screen, right under allergies. We're showing you the NARC score. Then to get the numerator increment, you are clicking on that PMP report, that cute little hyperlink that's at the bottom of the NARC score, and this is the report. So it's showing you, you know, any pending controlled substance prescriptions. It'll do a summary for you. The total prescriptions, the total prescribers, and the total pharmacies, right? Those are important numbers. How many different doctors are prescribing this person an opioid? How many different pharmacies are they going to get this prescribed, right? Are they trying to spread it out and they're using too much? So this is what the PMP drug history report is going to show you. Then the folks who've been doing this out of the product, so the ones who are logging into a separate, you know, they're logging into their state MAPS or PDMP, and they're saving this into the DMS. So we thought, well, let's make that simple for our folks. So when you're viewing that NARCS report and the feedback, you have a send to DMS button, and it's going to file it right into the new category that's created in your DMS. So you always have it to reference. And I thought this was a really nice, friendly workflow that we've added, make that simple. And then we're storing it somewhere else too. There's a place called PDMP programs, and we're going to store it there too. So there's two places for you to find this information. Okay, so that was the PDMP. APRIS and Dr. First are the two third-party vendors we're working with. At the end, you know, if you guys are interested in that, we're going to have you reach out to Patrick or send a support ticket in, and we'll get you up and running. Verify opioid treatment agreement. So this is, again, falling under the e-prescribing objective for at least one patient. Here we go, one patient again. for whom a Schedule II opioid was electronically prescribed by the MIPS eligible clinician using CERT during the performance period, if the total duration of the patient's Schedule II opioid prescriptions is at least 30 cumulative days within a 6-month look-back period, then you are to identify the existence of a signed opioid treatment agreement and incorporate it into the patient's record. Okay, so that was a fun programming call, working that out with our folks. What are we looking at to judge all those things? The prescription's at least 30 cumulative days within a 6-month look-back period. So we've got some pretty sophisticated math that's happening to let us know, do we need to do this or not? So again, the numerator here is the number of patients in the denominator for whom you have incorporated this signed, and you only have to do it for one patient. They're already talking about removing this in 2020, which just cracks me up. Thanks so much. You know, we put some effort into developing this, right? And they're already talking about removing it. So we will see what happens. But there will be, at the very least, they're proposing an exclusion in 2020. So what does this look like? So there's going to be a cute new icon right there in medication history that indicates the red pencil next to a cute little document means I do not have a signed agreement on file. And the green icon indicates I do. Yay, team. I thought that was a really nice user interface there. I was pretty happy about this. Okay, what happens if I click on that? So when I click on it, it shows me, here's my opioid agreement. It's going to let me check a box that says I do have one, and I can click on that view agreement if I want to see it. And if I don't have one, I can click the box and print the agreement to obtain the signature and scan it back in. So we're trying to bring great awareness, make it really obvious. Who do you have one for? Who do you don't? Okay, so where's this document? What's this all about? We have samples of these. Literally Google, guys. If you don't already have one, go to Google, reach your hand out. We'll send you this one if you're interested. But basically, you're going to put this into GlowStream like you do all your other templates. You're going to put it in patient letters. And then for those of you who aren't familiar with our template association feature, this is one of my favorite features. This is kind of like the secret sauce. During check-in, I want these 10 documents to be available to me. Well, how does the system know which 10 documents to show me? Well, I'm going to go into template association and associate it with check-in. So we created a new type called opioid agreement. So you go find your opioid treatment agreement and you hook it up to this template association type called opioid agreement, and that's the secret sauce that hooks everything together. Okay, we got through the two worst ones, you guys. Okay. Provide patient access. This is your portal. This is what you've been doing forever and ever. Amen, right? We've always had to do this, and we really hammered this one home last year, right? So many of the measures were tied to the patient has to have a portal where it can be successful doing some of the other things like view, download, transmit, secure messaging, send them their patient ed, which all, by the way, did you hear what I just said? VDT, secure messaging, patient ed, none of those are required of you this year, right? Isn't that fun to hear them and not stress about, oh my gosh, how do I get the patient to go and view, download, and transmit their health information? Those things are now off the table, yay, for the MIPS program. And at the bottom here is my new message regarding, so the points for this measure can expand based on exclusions from the public health and clinical data exchange objectives. So these are old moldy. There's my son. He's so cute. He's getting married next year. Congratulations to Corey and Allie. So he's my victim. So yeah, you all are aware of what the workflows are here, right? Our number one best practice recommendation is get the patient's email account. If they refuse to give it to you, you don't want to be penalized for that. So go ahead and use the Quick Activate. We have had to disconnect Quick Activate from the presence of an email so that we could give you this credit. There's a regulation in the certification requirements that says you can count that patient if you've given them a way to get into the portal. If they decide 2 days from now, 20 days from now, 5 years from now, if they can use something you've given them to create their portal account to access the information you're pushing, then you can count them because you've done your job and you've given them access. So we had to disconnect that from the email. And so the end result is some really ugly usernames, and I apologize to you for that. I know they're ugly. But we wanted you to be able to be successful in this measure and not be tied to the behavior of the patient. At the end of your end of your exam note workflow, right? In the early days, we had this send to patient. You had to send the summary of care. And there's portal, API, and portal and API. Yes, you can't, we want you to be able to do this whether or not the patient has an active portal account or not. And so this is something you can push. What we did, because this measure, one of the changes last year was you have to do this after every single visit. Oh my gosh, so your dashboard might be looking super fantastic because you saw a patient and you pushed this out to the portal, and then your partner saw them the next time and they didn't. And all of a sudden everybody's got a big fat zero for this patient because we didn't do it every single time. So we tied this activity to the exam finish. So sending the CDA on exam finish is an option in admin that you can enable. We highly recommend you all do this. We did not make this a default setting because you really, we're counting on you to know, am I really done documenting the patient's record when I click exam finish? The presumption would be yes. I have seen folks who the doc does that part before, maybe the MA hasn't had a chance to get the vitals logged or whatever. So long story short, if in your practice you feel like all the charting for today is done when you hit finish exam, we will automatically send that CDA up to the portal to help you be as successful as possible. Okay, and then this is the patient can opt out. How can the patient opt out? And, wanting to give you as much credit as possible if they opt out. Just hopefully you don't have to go this route, but it is available to you. My preference, because we want you to actually activate that account so you can push data to it so you can get credit, is the preferred method. Okay, so to land the plane, get your email addresses from your patients, enable that setting in admin so that all you have to do is upon finish exam, you're not doing anything extra and we're automatically pushing the CDA up there. And okay, so now, the HIE measures, these have always been the bane of our existence. They're still not our favorite, right? Direct messaging has not been widely adopted, right? Everybody kind of has one because they have to have one, but not most folks don't know about them. So support electronic referral loops by sending health information, right? This is the same old summary of care upon transitions of care. They just gave it a new name. So the workflow is the same. We'll talk about it for a second. Yes, and this is, I wanted to make sure everybody understood. So this is the measure that is not, you can't exclude this one, but if you exclude the other one, the points for this one are going to increase. So let's go just take a look. This is, so how do we know, so what are we telling the system? There's the summary of care upon transition of care. So the transition of care is first, right? This is a referral out, right? I'm a PCP and I'm sending the patient off to the GI guy to get a colonoscopy, whatever. So you generate an order, right, for that transition out. I'm sending an order. That's the transition, the outbound transition of care. And then from that order, so this is how we get, this is how we tell the system it's an outbound transition of care. And you can build this in in order and results. Edit orders and results, you can build this order out and you can flip the flag that says this is an outbound it's the referral, so it's an outbound transition of care. So there's some easy ways to tell the system, count this as my transition of care. The summary of care is from that order, I am going to go up to generate CDA and I am going, which is going to scoop up that summary of care and you're going to send it via provider secure direct messaging to the person you're sending it to. So, right, the challenge here is always, getting the direct messages from these guys, right? We've got this whole entire SureScripts directory is downloaded in the system. Not my favorite workflow. I am much happier if I've got those referrals tied to the patient in demographics and I have defined their direct address there. This just works better. If you've got, 10 guys you commonly use, I would do everything I could to make sure that their direct address is populated in their referral file, so it's just a little easier to make this workflow happen. And then here's where we can see that, you know, that ACMAX, right? Did I get my status code of 010, which means the transaction was successful and it made it through to the guy who's supposed to receive it. So that's the old summary of care upon transitions of care. Support electronic referral loops by receiving and incorporating, right? This is the one last year they called clinical information reconciliation, right? So it's the med list, the med allergies, and the problem list. These are the things that you're supposed to be extracting and reconciling. Again, this is that feature that's been in our product, since 2013 apparently was when we first talked about this. This is where you're working that inbox like you would an incoming fax queue, and you're processing that CDA, you're importing it, you're reconciling it. It is, again, somewhat clunky workflow. I believe that this is something you could, if you're not able to operationalize this in your practice, the ability to do so is there, but if it's just not working for you, claim the exclusion this year, and we're going to work on this for next year. So that's the whole, this is what it looks like on the screens where you're reconciling those lists, right? Oh, here's the med list that came in on that C-CDA, and here's the med list I have in my system if it's an established patient, and then it reconciles the two. Keep in mind, this works kind of nicely if it's a new patient. I mean, I want to communicate the message. This shouldn't just be, oh my gosh, this is a heck of a lot of work, and it's for no good reason. If you are getting a transition of a new patient into your practice and you go through this process, it's going to register the patient for you. It can be very nice. It can be a time saver for you. So be trying to use this and get used to the workflow as soon as possible. Okay, and then what if there is no summary of care? There's some places you can go and check boxes and remove these folks from your denominator. That's what the screen's about. Okay, quality performance category. Whoa. Oh, there's my really. Okay, so they removed two measures, right? This just kills me. We got really good at these two, and they are no longer available. So the comprehensive diabetes care for a foot exam, and the use of aspirin or other antiplatelets for ischemic vascular disease. What a bummer, gone. Our best practice recommendation is to be sure to select 8 measures that are on the quality measures dashboard to track throughout the year. You only have to submit 6. But pick 8 in case something happens. Okay, this is the deciles I was describing earlier. The message here is for most of the measures, it's going to be a little bit harder to achieve a score. That orange, that little star is meant to show you, oh, if I had a 50%, last year it was worth 8 points, this year it's worth 7 points. Last year it was 6 points, this year it's 5 points. So in most cases, you're going to earn a score of 50% is going to earn you at least 1 point lower than it did last year. That's kind of the overarching message there. Okay, what's new? We built screening tools for depression, for functional status assessment for total knee and total hip replacement. We have some really nice tools out there. Take a look. There are some nice workflows tied to these. If you give a positive response to the PHQ-2, it's going to force you to do the PHQ-9. That's going to, this is how you increment your numerator for the depression screening measure, and you have to be sure that if it's positive, you're documenting that the patient is being treated either by going to a mental health clinic or maybe an antidepressant. For the hip and knee replacement, so the HOOS and the COOS, and there are several other patient-reported outcomes tools that we have populated here. So the patient goes through these, and the timing is very specific, right? 270 days before the surgery, and no, it's any time before the surgery, and up to 270 to 365 days after the surgery. So it's got to be done twice. The timing is all spelled out. Here's my again, so last year they added a step where, for the high blood pressure screening and follow-up, you have to be sure that you are documenting this extra step of a finding of hypertension reason code. Yeah, well, they took that away this year, so it's made it a little less troublesome. And then here's this is typical of the kind of changes we have to make. Last year, the colonoscopy had to be performed within 9 years. This year it's 10 years. So you can see the different, for the different tests that are positive indicators of colorectal cancer screening. They've manipulated the years, so we're up to date with all of these things. Okay, how am I successful this year versus last year? So we talked about the fact that you have to now, last year it was 0 to 3.75 points would get you a negative adjustment of -5. Yeah, now anything less than 30 points, you're getting that -7. 30 points is your neutral payment adjustment goal. Anywhere from 30 to 74.99, you're going to get a small positive adjustment, but you will not be eligible for the exceptional performer bonus, and then greater than 75. So we talked about that earlier. The road to 30, I always like to try to break this down for you guys. Okay, and my goal is to avoid the negative payment adjustment. How am I going to do that? Well, I can, I can get 50 points in the PI category, report 4 quality measures, and knock it out of the park for the improving activities, because those are easy. That's a 30. If I get 60 in my PI and do 2 medium weighted improvement activities and don't even do quality, I'm going to get 30 points. If I do all 6 measures and get 6 points each, I'm going to get a 30. If I do do a great job with the improvement activities, getting my 100% there, and I get the bare minimum 3 points for each of the quality measures, plus some addition, I'm going to get additional points there. That is going to get me to a 30. So there's a lot of ways to get to 30. So that's the overarching message there. If just getting the 30 is your goal, lots of ways to get there. Okay, summary, next steps. Remember what this is all about, guys. Achieving the triple aim: better population health, enhanced patient experience, and lower costs. Patient engagement leads to better patient outcomes and higher patient satisfaction, right? Let's get those portal accounts going so we can get our patients engaged. Continue the good habits that you've established in previous years, right? You guys have been doing this for a while. For our Q Pro and Q Complete customers, your performance manager is here to guide you through this. And we would like you to email the support desk to request an update for the new PI dashboard if you don't already have it, and it will have the 2 new measures, all the workflows that are baked in for PDMP and the opioid agreement letter. And if you are interested in APRIS or Dr. First for the PDMP integration, contact Patrick Murphy. And last but not least, the quick guides are in QEMR Online Help, and as Sarah said at the beginning of the hour, they will be on Q College. I think we did it.
Yeah, right, 1 p.m., right on the dot. Again, if you guys have any questions, feel free to you can put them in the chat now. We'll leave it open for the next few minutes so that you can add that. And then again, don't hesitate to reach out to your performance manager, to Julie or myself. And again, we'll be sending out the recording of this, the PDF version of this presentation, so you can use it as a reference. It has all the links that you saw today in it. And then, happy MIPSing, like moving forward. If you guys have any questions, please don't hesitate. You got anything else?
No, that'll do it. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Julie.